Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pink and Channels. I'm Connor Southwell, and Norwich City have made a very exciting signing, we hope. And of course, when they do make a new signing, we like to speak to somebody who's full of insight and knowledge about the player that they have just signed. That player, of course, is Mathias Kvistgaarden, as I'm reliably informed by our guest the pronunciation is. And I'm delighted to be joined by Toke Theilade, who is a Brøndby fan, first and foremost, but also editor-in-chief of the Villeport Park fan site. That's a lot of Danish pronunciation I've had to get my head around. So hopefully all of that was spot on. Toke, thank you so much for joining us. Mathias Kvistgaarden, what can you tell us about him first and foremost before we get into all the nuances around the deal?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, first of all. I think it's a super exciting signing from Norwich, or for Norwich, of course. Really a good young striker. Has been Brøndby's best player really over the past couple of seasons, or if not the best, one of the best, and of course also won Player of the Year award in the Danish Super League last season, where he finished second on the top scorer list. So brilliant young striker, really promising. More or less, I would say, a complete player. And of course, it's he goes to Norwich, so there's a bit of a connection there, of course, with both of he is also already good friends with Slimane and Southwell, and yeah, it's also tough not to think about Timo Pukki, who went the same route some years ago. I hope he would be just as successful as him. But yeah, I think all in all, it's a really good signing for Norwich, and they're getting a player who can really do a lot. He can dribble. He is very fast. He's a great finisher. But I think the main thing with Kvistgaarden is that he's just the kind of player you love to see playing for your team. I mean, his mentality is just spotless. He's really a fighter. He gives 100% in everything he does. He pressures. He's just a wonderful guy to watch, and very likable and easy to support for, because you can just see how much it means for him, and the passion he has on the pitch is just a pleasure to watch.
And before we get into him as a player, I mean, the deal and the fact it's Norwich first and foremost, because there's been lots of big clubs linked with him this summer, let alone in previous years. I mean, Lens have been mentioned, Rennes, RB Leipzig, so many, Eintracht Frankfurt, Celtic, of course, have been long-term admirers as well. What's the reaction been in Denmark and amongst Brøndby supporters that perhaps it's Norwich City that are going to sign him?
I don't want to offend anybody at Norwich, of course, but it's surprising. I mean, Celtic have been chasing him for a year and a half now, and we're very close to him last summer. We're very close in January as well, reportedly. And I think everybody assumed that he would go to a top 5 league, or if not a top 5 league, at least one of the bigger clubs in like Holland, Portugal, Scotland, like Celtic, this kind of thing. So the fact that he ends up in Championship together with Slimane, in the same club as Slimane and Southwell, for example, who were not on the same level at all in their time in Brøndby, is surprising. Maybe a bit underwhelming, but at the same time, I think also for him, it's really important to find a place where he thinks he will play a lot, and where he feels the club is trusting him. So it could prove to be a really good place for him. And of course, he's still young. He can go with some players he knows, and I think it makes sense when you look at it in that way. But I had expected him to go to a bigger destination. But I mean, of course, we shouldn't underestimate the Championship either, because there's a lot of good players who is moving from Championship to big destinations, of course.
Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of the deal itself, because it's been reported, obviously, this end, that there's been a release clause that Norwich City have been able to activate. I mean, was that surprising to you guys and the fan base? Was that kind of common knowledge? Because it certainly wasn't at this end. I think there was a lot of surprise when you sort of learnt of the fee that Norwich City have paid for him.
That's another part of well, I mean, there was surprise with him going to Norwich, but there was a lot of unhappiness with the price, because Brøndby has had this unofficial goal of selling a player for 100 million Danish kroner for a very long time. FC Copenhagen, FC Midtjylland, FC Nordsjælland have all done it. Brøndby are yet to do it, and even the sporting director and people around the club said that, okay, Kvistgaarden could be that player. It was rumored last year that he would be that player in January. Like, yeah, if we are selling him, that would be the price. So earlier today, the news of this release clause came out. And I mean, it's not like he's going for nothing. Like, obviously, it's still one of the club's bigger sale, but this 60 million Danish kroners is also quite underwhelming, I would say. And people had expected to get 4 or 5 million pounds more. So I think Norwich are getting a really, really good deal here, and should be very, very happy with the transfer here. And that's also why it's again surprising that no bigger clubs came for him, because it's I think a player with this age, with this quality, for this price is an amazing deal. Like, you don't get many of those.
I wanted to obviously speak about him as a player, and I mean, in one, I think it was your very first answer, you described him as a striker, and there's been a lot of debate here. Would he be a striker? Would he play just off the left in the role that some Borja Sainz has been played in, who looks set to depart the club? I mean, it's clear in your head that he's very much a striker, and that's kind of the position that you see him playing in best.
I mean, I think a striker is like it can mean many things. He is a striker. He's an attacking player, but he can both play as a number 9, but you can also play him as like an inverted winger, or slightly behind the striker as like a deep lying kind of supporting striker. He has done all of these roles in Brøndby and has really excelled in all of them as well. I would say I like him the most when he's playing behind another striker, a bigger striker. It can sound a bit silly to say that, considering he made 17 goals this season, and as playing mostly as the number 9, but I also think if we have to say something negative, he had a bit of a habit of sometimes disappearing a bit out of the games, because he had to lead the attacking line and of course always be that threat up front. Where when he played last season, when we almost won the league, he played behind a bigger target man, and he had more of a free role where he could roam to the wing, he could go inside the pitch, he could run deep, he could track back a little bit to participate in the build-up, and he really did well in that role. Also setting up his teammates, did a lot of assists and everything. So if I had to pick a role for him, I would say play him as more of a supporting striker, because he can do a lot more than just being a poacher. But if you need a poacher, he can do that as well, and do that with really high quality. His finishing is at a very high level. And he can finish with both legs, with his head. He's a good dribbler. He's strong to protect the ball. So yeah, he can play in all roles. But I would prefer him to play with another striker, I would say.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, it's interesting you speak as well about kind of how good he is with his head, because you look at, and look, we here in England and in Norfolk only have kind of video footage and YouTube compilations to go by, but he's not the tallest guy. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn when I say that, but aerially he looks to be very, very good.
Yeah, he's very small actually. I think he's like 170 or something like that. But when you see him, he's not I mean, his height is not high, but it's not tall, but he's not a small guy. I mean, he's very strong. His upper body is very strong. He has a lot of muscles. You can see he's not a guy you just push away like a lot of other small strikers. Because there's a lot of players like this where they cannot protect the ball, but he is not a guy you just push away. He is strong, and his jumping ability is at a very high level. So yeah, I mean, obviously he's not winning aerials against those 2-meter tall defenders, but if you give him a bit of space, he can come up very, very high and get the balls, and his technique with his head is very good. Like he's very precise when he's finishing with his head, and also if you pass a long ball to him, he can take it down and protect it and keep the defenders away from him with his body as well. So yeah, he's athletic. I mean, he celebrates his goal by doing these flick flags where he jumps around. So you can also see there's really some power in those legs and that body, because that's not a normal thing to be able to do. I think that is safe to say.
No, it definitely isn't. I know there are a lot of Norwich City fans there really looking forward to that. I mean, in terms of the last 4 years for him, I've got kind of season by season the breakdown. 21-22, 16 games played, 5 goals scored. Then it was 7 the next year. Then it was 8. This year it's been 17 in 29 games. Has that improvement been visible within his game, that he's sort of combined goal scoring with a real improvement in terms of his performances and his overall game? How's he sort of developed?
it definitely has been visible. I mean, we could see pretty early on that there was something to him. I mean, he scored a hat trick a couple of years ago, and it's like, okay, this guy, he has something. But he has also struggled a lot with injuries, and that's why I think that's also why he's not going to a bigger club. I did a calculation the other day, and I think it's like 15 matches he's missed over the last two years alone. And I think you can easily say that for the same amount of matches, he has been less than 100%, either leaving the game early or not playing up to his full strength. So he has had some issues physically that has kept him from breaking through earlier. I mean, last season he was amazing and was a big part of the reason why Brøndby, not last season, but like the 23-24, of course, was a big reason why Brøndby were challenging for the title. And then he broke down in the spring and sat out for almost the entire spring period. I think if he had not picked up that injury, he would have been sold last year already before the release clause came in place. And yeah, he would have finished that season with 15 to 20 goals. But yeah, injuries have kept him down. And every time he hit a rhythm, he picked up a new injury and then had to earn back his spot on the team and so on. So that has been a big issue for him. But yeah, you have definitely been able to see how he has grown, also taking more of responsibility, being more of a leader on the team, more vocal, doing more interviews with the media and not being afraid of like standing up and speaking his mind and everything. So of course, Brøndby would have loved to keep him for another year, but at the same time, it was also very clear after this season, like he has outgrown the club. He's too good now. He has done everything he can. He is like Brøndby to the bone and has fought and bled for the club, and now he has deserved a move to abroad to challenge himself. And like he has done what he can for Brøndby. Also played a small part of the role when we won the championship in 21, so he even has that winner medal with the club, which of course makes it even better for him to move abroad. Like then hopefully he returns to the club when he's 30 something after a long and great career abroad, and we get to see him again. Also, yeah, he got his debut on the national team just in the spring, so it was great for him to get that first cap while he was still a Brøndby player. So he's memorized as well for having that cap as a Brøndby player. That means a lot. Yeah, now he is ready for the next stage. And you can see he's a guy that just he trains really hard and he develops a lot. When he's being pushed, he just takes a step up and grows as a player and grows as a person. So I have no doubt that he's ready for moving here to Norwich.
As I said, there's so much excitement here about him joining Norwich. The level of club that was being linked with him, clearly what he's done in the last season, the goals that he scored. Whenever a club signs a goal scorer for a fan base, that's very, very exciting. Clearly, you've spoken there maybe about the injuries and kind of his body. He's now going into a league that has 46 games and a lot more games involved in that as well. I'm sure there are some footballing stuff as well that he needs to develop, but is that kind of not a concern? That's probably too strong, but is that maybe a question mark you would have about him? How effective he can be at stepping into a league where there's so much more football and so many more games, and the physicality of it as well?
Definitely. I think the physicality of like what's happened on the pitch, he will be able to deal with. But yeah, that was also one of the reasons why people were surprised to pick Norwich, because everybody knows that Championship, I guess, is the hardest league in the world with all the games and no winter break or anything like that. So for a guy who has struggled with injuries to go to a league like this, maybe it is a bit risky. And I hope that he will get rid of the injuries. I think also part of it is he is not the best guy at protecting himself. I mean, as I mentioned in the beginning, how he always gives 100%. He goes into every single tackle. And while you love to see it as a fan, sometimes I've also caught myself thinking, sitting in the stand thinking, come on, you don't need to fly in like that. Like, learn to protect yourself. I mean, it's not like he's flying in with his head first, but it's almost like that. He really spares nothing, and I think that's something you have to learn as a player, to like know the moments when you're giving everything, and then maybe saying you can make a business decision here and there, especially when you're a striker and you don't have the best techniques for tackling. Like, you don't have to throw your whole body on the line all the time because it's a long season and your team needs you as well. And I mean, the best ability is availability at the end of the day. So I hope he maybe matures a little bit in that way and learn to pick his fights, because otherwise I think he will struggle to play a full season in championship. And I mean, he has to be able to stay more on the pitch to be a success, because it has definitely kept him down, as I said. Yeah.
Final few questions then, because I really appreciate your time and joining us. You mentioned his name, Teemu Pukki, big name over here. I know he's a very popular guy at Brøndby as well, and I think fans of both clubs can really connect over him. But I'm intrigued purely on kind of what Pukki showed in Denmark and what Kvistgaarden has shown in Denmark. How comparable are they in terms of the achievements, the goal scoring, the type of players that they are? Is there any sort of comparisons you could make between the two?
I had a feeling you would ask me this, so I've been thinking about this the whole day, actually. And what I came down to is, I think Kvistgaarden, actually, what he has shown during the last seasons here, I think he is a more complete player than Pukki. I think his ability and what he can do on the pitch is more impressive than Pukki. Pukki was really good. Really good mentality, always pressuring, always fighting hard, and a good finisher. I think Kvistgaarden is a more complete player. He can play more roles. He can do more with the ball, more without the ball. He's faster. He is a better finisher, better with the ball as a dribbler, better at setting up his teammates. And of course, he's coming to Norwich, I think 3 or 4 years younger than Pukki was at the time that you were getting him. So I would say Kvistgaarden definitely the more impressive player of the two. I was also comparing a lot of seasons for all of Brøndby's top scorers for the past 30 years, and only 3 players have had a better season measured in goals per minute than Kvistgaarden had this season, of players who played a full season, of course. So it's not just a good season. It really is up there with the best season for a Brøndby striker ever. So it was historic what he did. Really was a shame that the team overall wasn't better, but I guess that also speaks to how impressive it is that he did all of this on a team that fired the coach halfway through the season and never really hit the form. Especially offensively, we were very, very poor. Where Pukki played on arguably the best Brøndby team in the last 15 years. So for him to score the same amount of goals was, of course, a lot easier than for Kvistgaarden. So yeah, I would say Kvistgaarden is definitely a better player than Pukki at the time of Norwich getting him.
Yeah, which is very exciting to hear. Absolutely, given what obviously Teemu Pukki went to do at Norwich City. I mean, you mentioned 2 of their names, and you probably knew I was going to ask you about them as well. Oscar Schwartau, Anis Ben Slimani, both from Brøndby backgrounds, and we'll know him stepping into Norwich. And you know, we speak about kind of players moving abroad and the challenges that can bring off the pitch, let alone on the pitch. I mean, having 2 guys there that he's very familiar with and very friendly with, that's going to be a big thing for him, isn't it? A big help for him as he moves to Norwich.
Definitely. And I think also going to England is, of course, a lot easier for him because he knows the language. He speaks English. He's been growing up watching English TV and American TV shows and everything. So he can come in and communicate with his teammates from day one, where I think if he had moved to Germany or France, that would not have been the case. And yeah, him and Slimani and Schwartau, they sort of entered the team around the same time. They grew up and the first team together. So they're very close to each other. They were part of the young part of the squad, the young brigade at Brøndby at the same time when we won the league and those years. So I think that they are as close friends as you have in football, really, and have been playing together for a couple of years. And I think that's a massive boost for him. There's always a little bit of a concern for players, especially Danish players, because often the environment is much more fierce and competitive when going abroad. So now that he has these guys that already have gone through it and can help him, I think that's big for him. Also, it should be mentioned that Brøndby, of course, is a massive club in Denmark, together with Copenhagen, by far the biggest club, and he is used to dealing with a lot of pressure and a lot of attention. So often when you buy Danish players, they're coming from smaller clubs and they're not used to all the focus and the spotlight coming to them. But having played at Brøndby, he's already used to that. Like every single small detail about the club is reported on. Loads of rumors, loads of fan interaction and attention to every single detail, rumors, all of this. So I think he is more mature than many other Danish players at that age, because he has simply been at a big club. He has tried a lot, also been around playing some European matches, that pressure. So that is a big advantage for him as well. And yeah, the culture thing of going from Denmark to England is of course not as big as it could be to some other places, since the language barrier doesn't really exist for him.
Absolutely. Look, and finally, look, fantastic insight. So thank you so much for everything that you've said over the last 20 minutes or so. But I mean, finally, I wanted to end it on a nice note. Look, both clubs play in yellow. We mentioned Teemu Pukki, Schwartau, Slimani, Kvistgaarden. There's going to be a lot of Norwich City love in Brøndby now, isn't there? And vice versa.
I don't know about how much you will love us, but we will definitely follow. We will definitely follow Norwich now. I mean, we have a couple of our young guys out. There's a lot of people who are following Leicester because of Mads Hermansen, the goalkeeper. A lot of people following everywhere. Jesper Lindstrøm played last season. It was Everton. Now he's back to Napoli, and Kvistgaarden is just as popular as those two guys. So there will be a lot of Danish fans following Norwich matches and keeping an eye on the results. And every time he scores, I promise you, people on X will go crazy and share the highlights and share the enjoyment of seeing him score. So yeah, you better produce some content for the Danish fans, because you are getting a lot of attention from us now.
Good man, Toke. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all very much for watching as well. Plenty of excitement around this signing. I think Toke's explained why this feels like a really exciting one for Norwich City. And I think we're all excited to see how he gets on in the Championship. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you, of course, again very soon.